Hi there, I'm Luke Hector and this is The Broken Meeple, a show where I rant and rave about board games, but usually more the ranting part. If you're interested in some of the games I'm about to talk about over the next few videos, then perhaps you'd like to pay attention to this sponsor.
As gamers, we find it hard to deal with empty shelves, some worse than others. You therefore want a supplier that has what you need at affordable prices and delivers on time. For me, that supplier is KIENDA. They offer a discount on bulk purchases as well as a point scheme for future acquisitions down the line. If there's a hot title you're after, chances are KIENDA's got it. Wingspan? Mine. Arc Nova? Mine. Eclipse? Actually I hate that game, it's terrible, but you might like it. If you use the referral link in the description below and sign up for a new account, you'll get 5% discount on your first order over £60. So let's make gaps in your collection a thing of the past. Get down to KIENDA and start saving today. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the video.
Get on with it.
It's finally time to return to the top 100? Question mark? Yeah, not quite. You see, previously I had done a top 100 every year, and a lot of other channels do top 100s. And I usually like watching those because it's good to get, an idea of the personal taste of different people. But a few things I've kind of maybe to consider maybe not doing top 100s anymore. Firstly, the time it takes. It takes a long time to do a top 100. I mean, it takes long enough just to come up with your list using the fantastic Pub Meeple ranking system. By all means, go check it out. But the other problem is that it takes a long time to do 10 plus videos on the top 100, going through them all in detail. It just takes an extraordinary amount of time. And previously I used to try and do it in September before Essen, which was an absolute nightmare. Last year I did it in January, sort of February time, and that worked out a lot better, but still, it was a lot of work, and there's other games and other content that I want to do. So I considered, okay, well, how about just top 50? Because when you're in the bottom part of the list, for the majority of people, there are exceptions, but for the majority of people, they kind of zone out with the bottom of the list. It's games where you're like, I haven't played this in a while, or I do enjoy this, but, not much else to say about it right now. And it's like, if that's the sort of thing you're describing about a game, then should you really be focusing on it in terms of a top 100? I don't know. So I thought, well, okay, why don't we just trim it down and do top 50? Now we're focusing on games that, for me, are just like the creme de la creme of stuff that I want to play, stuff that I am playing, stuff that I love, stuff that I miss. All these kind of factors come in where I can really start and go, these games are awesome, and start off on that front. I do have a kind of pseudo list for anything below 50, but it's a little bit rougher at that stage. This is more for just the statistics from comparing it to last year. Really, I just want to talk about these top 50 games, which I can do in about, I would say, 5 videos max. I'm thinking 5 videos of 10, just to go through them at a reasonable pace, not take too long, and tone down the level of editing on terms of the lower thirds and all that stuff that you see on screen, and just like, talk about 50 cool games, but not take until April to finish them. Is that too much to ask?
Is this a trick question?
So a quick little disclaimer, this is entirely my opinion only. This is all based on games that I am playing, that I'm enjoying, that I miss when I don't play them, that kind of thing. And you should not pay too much attention to ratings I've given games in the past, because firstly, a game might, be rated at a really high level in the past and then drop for me, in which case I will mention if that sort of thing happens. But also, there are games that I will rate highly because the game does exactly what it should be doing and does a great job of it. Doesn't mean that I want to play the game over and over and over again. We'll take a classic example, like Cascadia, Alice's Garden, Castle Combo recently, that kind of thing. These are games that I would rate 9, 10 out of 10 for what they do, because they do what they need to do perfectly. Do I want to pick up one of those games and play it over and over and over again? No. Do I miss it when I haven't played it for a while? No, not terribly. But should I down the game because of that? No, not really. I mean, something like Cascadia, for example, is one of the best examples of a gateway game that there has been in recent years. I just don't want to play it every single week. There is a difference between how great a game is and how much my personal enjoyment, like my drive, my passion for getting the game out is. And those two things are a very different system indeed. But I've got my system here. 50 games, 5 videos of 10. You know the score. Let's get on with it.
Yes, get on with it!
So first off, we're looking at my 50. This is a classic game from like year 2000, I think it was released. You know, this is an old game, one of the oldest in my collection, I would imagine, but it still goes strong. Every time they've brought out an expansion or a redone version, I've always been keen to get it, and I still play it these days, particularly at my Bogner club. It seems to be quite popular with players there, and this is the great evergreen that is Citadels. I really do enjoy this one. I mean, I love playing it with pretty much any player count, maybe capped at 6. I think a 7 or 8 is maybe going a little bit too far. But I've enjoyed the 2 and 3 player game variants. They can be quite cool. They are weaker than playing it at 4, 5 or 6, but still they're enjoyable. But 4, 5 or 6 players, this seems to be one of those games that's great for that player count. And, you know, 4 is decent, but 5 and 6, typically you split off into 2 groups. Or when you've got 5 players, it's like, oh great, what the hell do I do with 5 players? A 2 and a 3, I don't know, but Citadel, perfect for 5. Works really great. It's just a simple role selection drafting game. Take the wizard, take the assassin, take the thief. Who do you want for the turn for their special bonus? Build building cards, pay the money. Most money value of the city at the end wins. It's very straightforward. The abilities are not complicated, but you've now got something like about 25 plus different characters you can use with the new set. I think it's downstairs in the game bag. I think I took it recently to a club night. But yeah, it's just really good fun. One thing I really like to do from the newest set is it gives you prescribed sets that you can use. Take the one that is the evil mean one. I can't remember, I think it's like the last one in the list. But it uses like all the nasty characters. Take that one and play a game with that. It's great fun. As long as you know going in, it's going to be an absolute like bloodfest. But yeah, I still love this game. I played it at uni in the past. You know, first time I ever played it, the original version with the sort of oldish artwork. I've now got the new version with the tarot cards and the improved artwork. That's the version I would prefer to have. But honestly, classic or new, this game still goes strong.
Do you concur?
49 is new. Well, I say new. It has been on the top 100 before, but it's been ranked a lot lower down. I'm surprised this one actually climbed up so high, but I think it's because this one has definitely had a lot more plays in recent years, and I would say a lot of that is down to the expansion that came out for this. This is, I say, if I've got them on the shelf, I'll actually pull some of them off if I can, but this one is right in front of me. Here we go. Living Forest. I'm not going to get the games out of their boxes and stuff like that because that would just take too long. But this is from Ludinor, and the expansion to this improved this game a lot for me. It was kind of like a similar to the Mystic Vale card game where you drew cards from a deck and you kept going until you decided to stop or you went bust. This has that same mechanic, but it's very simple rules. And, you know, the card iconography, easy to follow. And it's a case that you've got 3 different victory conditions and you're aiming for one in particular. Now, the base game made it sort of in my top 100, but in the lower end, or perhaps just falling off the top 100. The expansion to this, I forget what it's called. Maybe there's something in the box for it. Can I see it? Yes, here we go. The Kodama expansion, I think it was called. Yeah, here we go. Kodama. Really does improve this game a lot because the Kodama spirits balance some aspects of the game. Fire used to be a little bit too easy before. Now it's a little bit harder to do. But you've also got the Kodama spirit cards, which not only are cool things to have in your deck, it's another way to generate the different icons for doing your actions. But if you take too many spirits off a particular stack, there's 3 stacks to begin with, it makes that particular victory condition harder to achieve. So you can kind of exhaust one stack in order to make somebody who's like leading, you know, rein them back in a bit. But then on top of that, the Lotus Flowers, which were pretty much like a very bad way to go in terms of a victory condition, now are a really good victory condition. You can do pretty well by collecting the Lotus Flowers. And it just has done so much to make the game a lot better. Sadly, the solo mode, I think, still kind of sucks a bit. It's definitely not a game I want to play solo, but I like pulling this out with 2 to 4 players and with a new insert as well for me, Raptor. I mean, I have got a very nice looking set here. I can't take it all out, but, you know, hopefully you can... It's all going wrong. You know, a nice set here, nice coloured, nicely organised. This is the kind of thing that I think my copy needed, because I have to admit, setting the game up with the normal sort of cardboard display for the trees was a little bit annoying in the past, but this one has just made it a bit of a breeze. So Living Forest has climbed back up. I don't think it will go any higher, but welcome back.
Hooray!
48 is a new game to the list, and this one I think I only played last year, but it appeared on my 23 retrospective list. So this list, this was a game that released in 2023, only got to play it last year, and then realized this is a really cool light engine building game. Theme, shmeem, it hasn't got any theme. I mean, it's completely lost. But to be honest, a lot of these games don't really have theme. A lot of people like to rave about Res Arcana. I personally don't like that game. I much preferred Seasons that came before it. But this one fits on that same kind of category of a lightweight engine builder game, and this is Veil of Eternity. I've got the Artifacts expansion for it as well, but with Veil of Eternity, I find that there's a lot more variation in the types of strategies that you can perform in that game. The drafting is probably one of the biggest occasions of turn angst I've ever seen, where you go in a kind of snake fashion to draft the 2 cards that you're going to use in that round, and going first, you might think, oh yes, I get first dibs on a card, but then it's like, oh, but I really want those 2 cards, and I've got to wait till last to pick a card. It's like, oh, which one of these 2 do I want first? And just going, even turn order will determine like how much turn angst you're going to get, but it's just a nice, smooth game. The cards are very simple to use. Nothing is complicated. The only thing that gets in the way, and it is kind of annoying, is the fact that the game likes to use weird terminology for things like areas and taming a card. Just take a card. You don't have to call it tame, and summon a card. Just call it play a card, whatever. Just not every game has to borrow terminology from Magic the Gathering. But it's a really cool engine builder. It's nice and smooth. Takes a bit long with 4 players, particularly with the expansion. You might want to consider, house ruling the length on those ones, but 2 to 3 players, this one has just been really solid. And there is a sort of unofficial solo for it, but I would have liked if the publisher had come out with an official solo mode for it so that I could play it over and over again in that fashion. But this one just has you sort of juggling the power stones, where you can only have 4 stones, but they can be of different values. You've got lots of cool little tricks you can pull, and when you get a combo that starts to work, it's satisfying to pull it off, and it doesn't take forever for the game to then finish. You just go to 60 points and see how you get on, and it's one of those snowball things where we start off a little bit slow, get set up, and then boom, run away with it. It's a really cool, neat little game, and it's not going to be for everybody, but in this sort of bloated category where it's lightweight, dry as a bone engine builder games, this one I think is my pick of the bunch.
There'll be plenty of time to discuss your objections when and if you return.
47, up 13 places, and I think that's mainly just because a bunch of other games have fallen down, because this one I think is kind of at that level. I have played it a few times though at conventions, mainly because a particular group of friends of mine love this game, and I mean love this game. They absolutely adore it. And I do really like this. I mean, it is in my 47th game, give me a break. But, for them, it's like their favorite game ever. For me, this is probably my now 2nd favorite Mind Clash game that they've ever put out, which is Tricarion, The Legends of Illusion or whatever. But this is basically the board game equivalent of The Prestige. If you've not seen that movie with Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale, seriously, go watch it. It's a very underrated movie. But this is that movie personified in the board game. You're magicians trying to put on tricks in a show, and you're kind of sort of trying to usurp each other. It's worker placement, but it's worker placement action selection. You've got to program what actions you want to do in a round, but then the order you do them is up to you. But the different people you use for a particular action have got different strength values, but you've got everybody else fighting for particular spots. Where do you go first? What's your important bit? Man, I mean, turn angst and AP can go a little wild with this one, but it looks great on the table. The expansion was really cool as well, even though this is a very complicated game, and therefore teaching and trying to keep the rules in your head is going to be a bit of a nightmare experience. That's Mind Clash for you, what do you expect? But when you play this, it's got a great dose of theme. It's, even though the tricks part is a little puzzly, but the feeling that you've got in the game, the setting, it works really well. There's a lot of in-jokes that you can say and a lot of references to films like The Prestige, but it's wonderfully meaty. It's got a lot of different, like meat grinding gears in your head, and it's not necessarily that everybody will do very different strategies. You might focus on different schools of magic, but that doesn't really mean anything. But whether you're going to be taking certain different specialists, the engineer or the manager, that kind of thing, and it's all about the timing aspect. When do I put my tricks into the show? Do I do it now? Do I do it when you're about to perform? Do I wait? Do I spend a whole round not performing anything and just set myself up? How long before I can get to the next level of victory points so I can earn the next level of tricks? You've got to kind of plan your game at the start, Because you're thinking, well, I'm going to aim for this level 3 trick at the end of the game. Well, which one are you going to aim for? Because at the start of the game, you better have an idea of what that's going to be. Otherwise, you could end up in a poor situation. Most of the time, I don't even bring this out. I've got the deluxe set downstairs, really nice, really luscious and all that lot. The problem is, I can't remember how to set the game up from it, because every time I play this, it's usually with my group of friends, who one of them in particular has the original box, but has, I forget which person did the insert, but I think it might have been Broken Token, but one of the wooden inserts for it, which is a really good wooden insert. And so when we play it, she always wants to bring out her copy. Hey, saves me the trouble, why am I going to complain?
It is just that the luxury edition has so much more eagle.
But it does mean that it's nice, nice on the table, looks cool, and just, I don't know, we get a kick out of this one. And I said second favourite Minecraft game, so there's been a little bit of a change in my love for Minecraft lately, so you'll be interested to know which one actually fell down as a result.
Long live the king.
46, this has dropped about 20 places. It doesn't hit the table as much as it used to, and I sometimes have to keep reiterating the rules, but I like thematic games. I like stuff that's kind of like takes me back on a nostalgia trip to almost like my retro days of gaming. But this one is very much like Streets of Rage, Double Dragon, what a fight, Street Fighter, I guess. All these different types of games and genres personified into a game, and that is called Street Masters. Probably impossible to get hold of right now, and I only got lucky because I found an eBay seller who had pretty much the whole collection. It's not something I want to play the whole collection of, it's just the fact that I've got lots of heroes and villains that I can play from, but this is just literally one of those like very thematic skirmish games of, here's my couple of heroes, they are God knows what type of hero. I mean, this guy's the equivalent of Ryu from Street Fighter, this other person's the Panda Warrior from Jujutsu Kaisen or something, there's all sorts of weird characters, but it's a cool little game, little skirmish map, fairly straightforward rules. You've got the main villain, you've got minions, you've got an objective that you've got to stop them from doing, and it's just get in there and beat the crap out of the enemies. Nice simple concept, but not complicated rules. Uses a very cool mechanic, like card system with abilities that you can do. A charge mechanic, which some characters are better at than others, where the more you get hit, the more you charge up a really cool attack and then come back. So it's definitely one of those get hit to do better type things, but when you play it, you just can't help but like constantly be humming the songs from Street Fighter in your head. It's like it's gonna happen. Put like one of the old 80s game soundtracks on when you play this, and it really does take you back. This game I pretty much entirely play solo. I can't remember the last time I ever played it multiplayer. In fact, I think the last time was probably when I was shown how to play the game in the first place. Ever since then, it's just been, this is one of my solo games that only I'm going to play. Just me, control one or two characters, here's the villain, go at it. And for that, it does the job really nicely. Just hasn't hit the table in a while, hence it has dropped, but it's still just a really cool thematic solo that I enjoy.
Of course!
45, down from 49. Not particularly much movement, really. I mean, this one is kind of consistent. This is the first game that ever gave me what I consider to be called the typewriter mechanic. Not spoiling, another game that I like has this mechanic as well, but this was the first one that ever did it, and I think there's only 2 games that use this mechanic, and seriously, I want this mechanic more in games. I want it now. Because more games have got to stop using the same old boring beige mechanics of leveling up tracks and stuff. Why can't we use this? This one is, if I can get it out, I will try. Here we go, come on. Woo! Civilization A New Dawn, Sid Meier's. Now, I do like the other Sid Meier's game, okay? It's down there. I think it's right below it, actually. And so, both of these games I like. But this one takes the spot because A, it's simpler to get to the table. The expansion fixed a few problems that the base game had. It made a couple of actions better. It brought back that sense of exploration, which was lost in the original game. But this one is just still a good, fun game. It looks cool on the table. Again, I've got a folded space insert for this, although is it still in one piece? Yeah, still in one piece. I mean, there's a lot in here, and it certainly does take a little bit to relearn the rules and that, but I love that you can kind of decide, right, am I going to focus on tech or money or military, that sort of deal. And the typewriter mechanic, as I call it, is essentially one where you've got the different actions that you can do, like tech or military, movement, that kind of thing. But depending on how high across the row the card is, the strength of the action is increased. So if I wait until it gets to the very end, I can move across any type of terrain, I can level up my tech really fast, I can put a really good like military unit out, you know, that kind of thing. Whereas low down, you're restricted. So you let these cards tick up over time, but then you might use it a bit early because you just really need to do the action, knowing it's going to be at a lower strength. So the planning that takes place with that mechanic is just so rewarding. I love it. You know, I can think turns and turns and turns in advance. I don't feel like I've got a lot of downtime because I'm thinking, right, well this year, let's see, this turn I need to do the tech, right, I'll move that down, shift that back up. I need that at number 4. Well, what can I do to get that at number 4? Well, I can do movement. I can move this guy over to here, go explore somewhere, that's fine, so that will bring that back down. And then that one allows me to do a development. Okay, yeah, fine, that'll be cool. Then it's at 4, then I can do this. That sort of thing is just constantly churning in my head and I get a kick out of it. Why can't more games find a way to use this mechanic? I know it's not the most thematic mechanic in the world, but let's face it, what most games have, especially the dry Euros that we're getting. But come on, does that mechanic not sound infinitely better than what a bunch of the beige stuff like Rasafa and, you know, Mendifer and all these other, like, Daitoshi, all these other beige games that have come out last year? Does that mechanic not sound infinitely better? I don't know, maybe it's just me. But, you know, I still really enjoy this one, and the more I look at this game, the more I really want to get it out at some point soon. I think this one needs a little bit of a rules relearn and to get back in the bag.
Do it! Do it, do it, do it!
44 down from 29. This one, again, just hasn't had a few plays, but it's still solid. Although the problem with this one is that this one is basically 4-player or not at all. There's no solo mode. 2 and 3 player has this kind of fiddly, annoying little rule for a neutral player and a different setup. So really, I only bring this out with 4 players. Which means it's going to take a little bit longer with new players, but also because it's going to be a longer game anyway. But this is definitely one of the best examples of worker placement I've seen in recent years, while introducing a cool theme. This is called Terra Mara, and this is a highly underrated game from Quined Games. Very underrated. Barely anybody knows of this game. But it's a civilization style game of, you know, building up your like villagers and getting resources, stone, wood, and, you know, pelts and all that lot in order to, you know, play cards for different points and abilities, but also to level up on 3 specific tracks, like a military one, a caravan one, and a water one at the bottom for, like, you know, different that get you different bonuses in the game. Like you go up, further along the river, you get to access more cards. If you go down the caravan, you get to unlock different bonuses. You go up on the military, you get to usurp people on worker spaces. There's different benefits for each one. But the thematic element with this is, firstly, you've got a lot of different spaces you can go to. But if you go on the higher rows, you get the worker back for the next round. If you go lower down, you get more rewards. But because your guy has travelled further out from the village, they don't come back in the next round. You might have to wait 1, 2 rounds. Maybe you lose them for the entire game. That in itself is a really cool thematic extra. But then it also means that you're constantly deciding, well, I really could use a lot of these resources now, but then I lose the worker for a good couple of rounds. Can I deal with that? Is that alright next round? I just don't have that many workers. I mean, you know, I've got some of these other, like, token workers. They could do little conversions for me, but to lose one guy, do I want to? But that's a good space. It's pretty juicy, and that sort of decision making is already great. But then as the caravans go down the track, as the round marker moves, the actions basically, like on the rows, they're modular. So not only is the variety really great, but they flip over and become different actions. So the game has an arc. It evolves. Looks around the table. I think it's Michael Menzel, I think the artist is. He's done a lot of board game art in the past. Looks great. You're looking for all the little Easter eggs. It's a really solid game. Is the balance perfect? Not entirely. The player powers are a little bit concerning. It might actually be better to play without player power sometimes. But mainly it's just a really cool Euro that's very underrated. It didn't get a lot of buzz when it came out and nobody really spoke of it apart from me. So here's me talking about it again. Seriously, if you like worker placement Euros and you got 4 of you, give this a shot.
Thank you, Mr. Cowboy. I'll take it under advisement.
43. I cannot believe this has happened. I swear to God, I did not muck up this list. I mean, when I get the top 50, when I get the top 100, I go through it, I give it a sense check, and I go, right, maybe that should be rearranged with that, maybe that should be there, I don't know how that went up and there. This one, though, I actually didn't rearrange it at all. This is where it ended up, and the more I think about it, the more I actually agree that this is where it should end up, because I have played it a lot in recent months. It is definitely the best one from this series, in my opinion. It's the one that actually did everything right for me. But the fact that this is on my top 100 or top 50 at all is really going to like break the internet. I already broke the internet a couple of weeks ago when I put this on my list. It's here. It's in my top 50. Great Western Trail, New Zealand. How the hell has this happened? What layer of hell froze over for this to happen? But, you know, I know it sounds like I should be making this a lot lower, but in all fairness, I do enjoy this game. It's, you know, I didn't like first edition Great Western Trail. Hated it. And this was many years ago. Over time, tastes have changed and I've gotten into more Euro games. And I played the second edition and I thought it was better, a lot better. They streamlined it, they cleared up some of the balance aspects of it, you know, and I thought, okay, this is better, but still, I'm not going to rave about it. Then I asked mates to show me their New Zealand one that they were playing at one time, and I thought, okay, you know, sheep are better than cows, and, you know, I like the idea that you've got 4 different people to grab rather than just 3. The strategies are very different, you can diversify and focus and do well with all. You know, these were all things that sounded pretty good. So I jumped into it and loved it. And then I grabbed a copy. I now have a fancy Raptor insert in my copy. I have metal coins. I mean, I don't know what it is, but this one just did everything right. It gave me kind of like a looser game, a slightly more sandbox game. Lots of different paths to victory that I can undertake with the different like neutral buildings being in different locations, a more, you know, diverse set of buildings to have normally. But I can decide whether I want to go full shepherd or full shearer or full builder or full sailor, or I could diversify into a few of them and still win the game, still do well. You know, there's a lot of different things that can happen, and some of that is strategic, but some of that is tactical based on what the tiles come out during the game and how the markets end up. It just does a lot of things right. Now, it's not perfect, certainly. It's a bit of a table hog. Takes up a ton of table space when it really should have been condensed down a bit more. It's also a bit of a long game. I mean, if you try to teach people this, even if they've played Great Western Trail before, you're going to be there for a good 3 hours plus and it's going to hurt. But you get 4 of you that know what you're doing, or 3 of you that know what you're doing. You can get this done in the 2-hour mark, 2.5 hours tops, and it's like, not a bad length for this, but yeah, it just... The problems I had with the original got fixed in this version. Granted, it took them a whole new edition and another couple of iterations of the game to get to this point, and I certainly do not need another version of Great Western Trail, although I will try to review that El Paso one that they're going to bring out soon, the smaller one, see what that's like. But you don't need to bring out any more big box Great Western Trail games. We found the one that I like. This is the one I'm sticking with. Holy hell, what is going on? I don't know, but it's on my top 50 list, so Great Western Trail players rejoice, I guess. 42, down about 11 places, nothing too major here. This one, it doesn't really matter which version of this game I like. I mean, I do prefer the small box one. This is the one that I play more often. I have still got the bigger box version that originally came out for it, but you know me, I love the Dixit card system, the tarot cards with weird artwork that are open to interpretation by people. Mysterium / Mysterium Park, and Mysterium Park is the one that I play more often, is like kind of like a really cool co-op / Cluedo-esque type game for this. It just really goes down well every time I bring it out. Now, the big box version has that stupid little clairvoyant token rule, which I'm personally not a fan of. It's a little fiddly, it's chintzy components, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. The game can also take a little bit longer in the big box version. The small one though, Mysterium Park, it's compact, it's 2 rounds, you don't have those clairvoyancy tokens, and it's just a great way to get Mysterium out in a short space of time. Why is the publisher not making more sets of this? I don't know. I'm annoyed about this. I mean, you make one set to do with a circus, and then you stopped. Why? What's your excuse? Give me Mysterium Camp, Mysterium School, Mysterium Town Hall, I don't know. Just give me something to have more sets. I will buy them. I will give you money. Do you not want my money? It's like, come on.
Shut up and take my money.
I love this game. It's easy to teach. I love being the ghost character, listening to all the thought processes of all the different players, thinking, yes, you're on the right track, you're on the right track, shut up, shut up. It's just, that sort of thing really is really cool. And you know, the small box version just quicker and easier to get out, even though the big box one does see the light of day every now and again. And I do like some of the other versions of it they brought out, although Obscurio, to spoil, is not on my top 50. It's, I don't even know if it hit my top 100. Oh no, it did hit my top 100. It got to 89. But, you know, Obscurio is a different version of this that I still really enjoy. This whole mechanic in general I really enjoy. And spoiler alert, there'll probably be another one coming up later. But yeah, Mysterium's just really solid. You know, co-op, Cluedo style game. It's a really neat idea, and I think it works just really soundly.
What the hell are you talking about?
And finally, down 4 places, whatever, on 41, this is a big game. I don't particularly want to get it off the shelf, but I don't think I have a choice. So we'll just move this one out of the way, and then I shall break my spine trying to go and grab this. This is a huge game. Yeah, Edge of Darkness. This is a John DeClaire game. This is from Alderac. It's pretty much only found on Kickstarter. I did a massive review of this. This is probably one of the first reviews I did that was like 30 plus minutes. Like, it took forever to do this one. But I still really enjoy this. I mean, I like playing it solo. It's got a good solo mode in it, but the same group who like to play Chicarion I mentioned earlier really like this game as well. It's the card crafting system from Mystic Vale. If you took it and made it even more interactive and added a worker placement element. So you've got the different locations around the side of the board, of which there are a ton of them to pick from now with the expansions. And these allow you to use agents as workers in order to go on different spots and do stuff. But the card crafting system is that cool thing of sliding the little translucent bits into the sleeves to create these awesome cards. But you don't own the card. You'll get money, you'll get points if people use your cards. But they end up in this central row that you draft from like each round, and the problem is that you might create a card that's so good you never get to use it because everybody else is using it. Yes, you'll get rewarded for doing so, but maybe I wanted that card. And that level of interaction is just really cool. It's overproduced, certainly. I mean, it's a giant box, there's a ton of these cards, there's this ridiculous tower where you put 3 cards on it, drop a bunch of cubes down, and this represents a combat defense system. Yeah, that bit's a little bit on the weird side from a thematic standpoint, but you know, it does mean it's a huge box, and you know, certainly it needs a dusting every now and again because it is on the bottom shelf and that's where the dust ends up. But it's just a really cool game. I think I've got every expansion for it now. I don't need any more content. AEG, stop producing it. All right, we're done. This is good. Maybe make a smaller version for people who don't want all of this content so that other people can play this game. But yeah, I still really enjoy it. It's a neat system, but it's a you know, it's not the shortest game in the world, and it does require you to get the box out and set it up. It's a bit of a table hog, but it's just so clever. One of the most unique games that I've got in my collection, and it's still one that I enjoy playing. Just doesn't hit the table as much as I would like, hence, you know, it may drop over time, but I'm never going to get bored of it. It's just going to be one that I need to make the effort to bring it out.
We're just so busy. Well, make time.
So there you go, that's my 50 to 41. Hopefully it's been enjoyable, and if you like these games or hate these games, then by all means let me know in the comments. It'll be interesting to give them a read. That's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up and let me know your thoughts. Consider subscribing to the channel, consider subscribing to the Patreon to help keep it running for all its costs that it has to endure. But until next time, remember it's only a game, and I'll see you on the next batch of the Top 50. Take care.